Good afternoon and morning, depending on where you're watching from, and welcome to the May edition of DadX Discussions from the National At-Home Dad Network. My name's Matt Strain, and I'm hoping everybody here is going to be interested in today's topic. Recently, my daughter, who's 11, got involved with an amazing organization and had an incredible experience. And my guest today that I'm bringing in is the local regional director of that organization, which is actually continent-wide. They're all across North America. But the organization is called Girls on the Run. Nia Oxley is program manager for Girls on the Run Triangle, where she partners with our local community to launch new Girls on the Run teams at schools, parks, and local rec centers. She facilitates and manages training for coaches for over 30 teams across Durham, Johnston, and North Wake counties here in North Carolina. With a background in nonprofit work and roots in the running community, she's passionate about expanding the visibility of Girls on the Run and does it through meaningful community engagement. And, outside of work, she enjoys traveling, dancing, exploring new restaurants, and spending time with her family because she's a mom as well as doing the Girls on the Run stuff. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring Nia on. Hi, Nia.
Hi.
How are you doing today?
Doing very well. Very well. Excited to see you again.
Well, I am glad to have you here. So a little bit of background for those of you watching. I heard about Girls on the Run, and my daughter was interested in doing it. We signed her up, which is where I met Nia at our local park about 3 blocks away. And I'm not going to lie, it was such an amazing experience for both Lily, my daughter, and honestly for me. I was like absolutely floored by just how much more it was than just, hey, we're going to get a bunch of girls together and run. It was just that there was so much more to it. Now, just for a little background, because I'm sure you're a lot more familiar with this than I am, what exactly is Girls on the Run and how did it start?
So I just want to say it's been so much fun getting to know you and also being a part of Lily's team. It's always nice to be able to meet the families because oftentimes in the office we don't have that opportunity. So a little bit about Girls on the Run as an organization. It started in 1996 in Charlotte with a small group of girls, and now it's grown to like 100, little over 160 councils throughout North America, as you mentioned. We're in Canada too, so we're international. And GOTR Triangle, which, as you mentioned, that's in my council. We have been a part of Girls on the Run for 25 years. So we have been making our stamp here in the Triangle with our local parks and schools and community, which is awesome.
That is amazing. And how long have you been involved with them?
I have been involved with Girls on the Run for quite some time. I had the opportunity to be a coach back in San Diego when I lived there. My boys I'm a boy mom, so Girls on the Run was an outlet for me to get some girl time in.
Sure.
Yeah, so I was an avid runner at that time. So the boys had started school and had a consistent schedule. So I jumped on the opportunity to be a coach, which was so much fun. It not only reinforced some tools that I wish that I had had growing up, but it was also great to feed into the community and make sure that our girls were well taken care of and given some tools. I moved to the Triangle about 4 or 5 years ago and saw that the Triangle had a Girls on the Run organization. I tried to volunteer, but my schedule didn't match up. And then there was an opportunity to work for GOTR. So I jumped on that opportunity and I've been here for about 2 years now. So that's my GOTR story. I feel like a lot of us do start off as volunteers and want to continue the passion and the mission of the organization and work for the org. So yeah, that's my GOTR story.
Well, that's fantastic. So My first exposure to Girls on the Run is that I'm a brand ambassador for a non-alcoholic beer company, and one of the things that they do is they hold a happy hour for their ambassadors once a month, and they'll generally bring on people that are talking about active lifestyles and the outdoors and that type of thing. And they brought on a representative from Girls on the Run, and she listed a statistic that really just hurt me inside. And that was that she pointed out that, according to studies, most young girls' self confidence peaks at about 8 to 9 years old.
Mm,
And from there, it's a steady downward cycle, which is, I'm sorry, but I have to say it. I mean, it's awful.
yeah,
I've got a daughter who's incredibly outgoing and is very, very much doing her own thing, and nobody's going to tell her what to do. But I can easily see where, in the society that we live in, so many people are being told what they should be, what they should do, how they should look, and all the rest of it. And my question is, like, what are some of the ways that Girls on the Run is helping in this situation to help boost these young girls' level of self confidence and self sufficiency, and giving them the positive directions that they need in life to prevent themselves from falling into that kind of a hole where they lose that exuberance that so many of us have watched our daughters have in their youth.
yeah. I think GOTR creates a safe space, one, for girls. Um, it also, through the curriculum, provides tools for girls to maintain their self confidence and also like their quirks, like all of the things that make us as women like unique. We definitely amplify those. Having a group of teammates or classmates that you might not have known also builds a community. And through the lessons, through the running, through all of the gained experience of the program, it kind of like creates that little bit of a boost for you. You have other classmates that may be going through something similar outside of GOTR. The GOTR gives you the tools and the community to make sure that like everybody feels seen, everybody gets to really tap into who they are and have fun doing it. Our volunteer coaches are amazing. Also, just adding another layer of support, another layer of like mentorship, and also a lot of our volunteers get to be fun with the girls. Sometimes GOTR's practices are when girls can be themselves, and so I think that's the main way that we help maintain a high level of self-esteem, and also gives um, tools in which if they are going through something that you can always lean back on those tools from GOTR and achieve something huge at the end of the season too. Having that like 5K at the end of the season is always a way to show our participants like, hey, I can do this. I can do hard things, and not only can I do it by myself or within myself, I can do it within a huge community. So yeah, we
So
love.
you mentioned the end of the season. One of the things that's neat about Girls on the Run is that you guys operate in a season. So this past spring season, or I don't know if you called it spring or summer, but either way, it was through the end of the school year, was the season that my daughter signed up for. And the overall format of it was that it was like, I believe, a 10-week program.
Yes.
And during that 10-week program, the girls all commit to do practice twice a week. Is that across the board, or is that something unique to just the triangle?
Sure. The scheduling is about the same. There are some deviations, of course. Every site is not the same, but the overall concept of the programming curriculum is a 10-week program. The team meets twice a week, depending on what day in the area. And each practice, you have like stepping stones that you build and build and build through, if we're talking about the physical aspect, the laps
Hmm.
that teams do. At the beginning of each lesson, we have like a main topic or a main focus. So that could be breathing techniques when you're stressed, or stress management, how to have great friendships, how to be a great friend. And then at the end of the lesson, participants will run laps to prepare for the 5K. Also, during the laps, there's an activity that reinforces the main lesson to get them ready for that 5K. So not only do we want to prepare them physically, but we also want to prepare our participants um, with, mentally, spiritually, everything. So yeah.
Well, and I will say those activities that they incorporate into the run training are really impactful. There was one day early on in practices with my daughter Lily that as they would run a lap, when they completed the lap, they would meet up with one of the coaches who would hand them a piece of paper, and written on that piece of paper was something negative. Like it would say, I can't do this, or I'll never be able to do this, or something like that. And their instructions were that by the time they finished their lap coming around, they had to find a way to reword that statement into something positive. And I was absolutely floored
Yeah.
when she was telling me about this, because I mean, I'm 53 years old and I could use more of that in my life.
Yeah.
I could use more of that ability to just reframe something in a more positive light instead of that, oh, this is the way it's going to be. And it was just, it was such an experience. I mean, it really was. And you mentioned the 5K at the end.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because this isn't just like a girls on the run thing where all the girls on the run groups get together and throw their own 5K. This
Yes.
was like a legitimate 5K race that was being held in the community, right?
Yes. Here at GOTR Triangle, we do partner with Peak of Running, and we are in partnership for our 5Ks. So not only do you get the 62 Girls on the Run teams, you also get families and also community members that come together and celebrate Girls on the Run and the mission and the impact on the community. So it's a big. I'm so happy that you're there and able to experience it. It is like the biggest energy like radiator. It is I honestly have to say that we do 2 5Ks a year, and those 2 5Ks keep the staff rolling all year. It is just the most amazing thing
Oh,
ever.
it is unbelievable. And I want to point out, it's not just like, you show up and you run a race. I mean, they had all kinds of things going on. I'm trying to remember, what was it, Heavenly Hair?
Oh, we have happy hair. Yes.
Happy Hair, that's what it
Yes.
was.
Yes,
So
that's a crowd fave for sure.
so they had a booth set up with a bunch of chairs, and they had volunteers, and the girls were encouraged to walk up, and they picked out different barrettes and hair extensions, and they had like colored hairspray, and the girls all got to get someone to do their hair. And just as an example, that's
Yeah.
my daughter after she came out of Happy Hair.
Oh, I love it.
I mean, you can't see on the other side. She went with one red stripe and one green stripe, and then she had purple polka dots throughout her hair.
Yes. Oh, I love it.
Um, and one of the other girls had brought like body glitter, so all the girls put face glitter on, and it was just such an amazing experience. And to the parents that are out there, they do not turn like third to fifth grade girls just loose on a 5K course with random people. All the girls are required to have a running buddy. Um, Probably the most amazing part of the whole thing to me was that when they mentioned running buddy, Lily immediately asked if I would be her running buddy, because she knows that I do triathlons and that, you know, I would be capable of doing a 5K with her. And it just felt so amazing because, she's 11 now and she's about to go into middle school. So, the times that she's actually going to really want to have one-on-one time with dad are decreasing like daily as she becomes more independent. And it's a really bittersweet feeling, I love her being a, you know, I love being able to help her out And I also love seeing her independence, but it breaks your heart a little bit every time.
Yes. But we will
Um,
make sure to always have the 5K for you. So that could be your annual or biannual thing.
it very well could. And, you know, again, going back to the pictures, this is us
Yes.
before the race. She was so excited. She had face glitter and everything else. And we were ready to run. By the same token, and you know, again, she pushed it. Prior to doing this in her training, they did a practice 5K in laps, maybe a week beforehand or so.
Yeah.
And I remember walking up to the coaches and asking, you know, what was her time? Because I'm not a fast triathlete. I just want to point that out. I'm very much a back of the packer. And I was genuinely concerned that can I keep up with her, or am I going to be holding her back? And they had pointed out, oh, well, you know, the girls, they all hit like a little over an hour on the 5K. And I was like, oh, okay, I can do that one. So it was very crowded. Unfortunately, my wife was not able to get the finish line crossing moment just because she couldn't get close enough. But she did get close enough to catch us like seconds after crossing the finish line. She pushed it. she
Yes.
she was drained. I was so proud of her. After taking a little over an hour in practice, her final time was 38 minutes and around 57, 58 seconds.
That's awesome.
I
Please
was
tell her
third.
congratulations because
Oh,
that's
absolutely.
that's so much improvement. That's so awesome.
I mean, it is unbelievable. She was floored when she saw what it was. She was hoping
Yes.
that she could get below 45 minutes. And like I said, it was amazing. We came home. The girls get their finisher medal just like everybody else. And when I tried to get a picture of her with our numbers, she immediately grabbed her medal and she's like, "I'm going to bite it like they do on the Olympics."
As she
And we were
should.
and we were all about it. But it was such just an amazing positive experience for her. Now, I mentioned earlier, you guys work with girls that are between third and fifth grade for Girls on the Run, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And then once they move into middle school, like Lily is next year in sixth grade, there was other groups of girls that were at the same 5K that were part of a group called Heart and Soul.
Yes. So Heart and Soul is, as you mentioned, the middle school program that GOTR has. It's very similar. It's I like to think of it as the more mature version of GOTR. The toolbox that we give our GOTR participants, so third through fifth grade, also get it in a different manner for middle school, because of course they're dealing with different obstacles. The concepts are a little bit more mature. But you know how to manage middle school. I have two middle schoolers myself. It is quite a ride. I to this day remember middle school for myself. So we definitely in Heart and Soul, it's a little bit more participant led because they're a little bit older and can
Hmm.
handle more leadership opportunities, and the subject matter is just more so for middle school and the challenges that are created there. So it's still the same concept. It's still non-competitive. It's still having those lessons, doing those really fun interactive activities, running your laps, and preparing for the 5K. So it's just packaged a little bit differently. But we
Hmm.
do have that program. And here in the Triangle, we're definitely trying to amplify that participation because we have an amazing grant that is waiving the fee for the program. So
Oh,
the program
which is
manager, I'm super excited to offer that to the community and look forward to opening up more middle school sites within our council.
absolutely. Now I will point out there is a cost involved with Girls on the Run.
Mhm.
However, I know that when I went to sign up for it, literally before you even get to the point where they're talking about what the cost involved is, they make it abundantly clear that you have financial assistance for any families that need financial assistance. please don't let the money be a hurdle to you participating in this or letting your daughter participate in this. The help is there if you need if you need the help. And if you don't need the help, obviously, you pay. If you go to the Girls on the Run website, which is, again, very simply girlsontherun.org, one of the beautiful things is on the very front page of the website, it has a link to find your local group. When I went looking for my local group, there were so many local groups in the area that we literally chose ours based on what was close to our house. We found out later that there was actually a Girls on the Run group at my daughter's elementary school that was doing that during their after school clubs program, which Lily had chosen not to do running and had instead done some of the STEM stuff because I got a girl who's all about the math and the science and all the rest of it. So, which again, I'm totally in favor of, but she wanted to do this. And it was great. I know that you can see a little bit in the background of this photo, just exactly how busy the overall 5K was. Being as how there's a lot of other participants in the race that were all children. I worked really hard to make sure that I did not take pictures that included other people's kids because, privacy is important. But I did want to point out there was a massive community of people there. It was an entire race day experience. There were sponsors, there were free samples, there were people that were there were cakes available. There was all kinds of just wonderful things that people could do. But more than anything, I was absolutely blown away by just the diversity of the crowd that was there. There were people from all walks of life at that race. And the one thing that they all had in common is that they were all hanging out with a girl who was either wearing a Girls on the Run shirt or a Heart and Soul shirt. And everybody was like clumped together in their little teams. But it was just such an open and accepting community, which is something that I just found absolutely beautiful. And I would love to hear more about what it is that Girls on the Run, what you guys are doing as far as maintaining that feeling of inclusivity and making sure that all the girls, no matter who they are or what their background is, are welcome to come and be a part of this.
So I think you took the words out of my mouth in terms of that's who Girls on the Run is. We want you to come and be who you are. From wherever you're at, you have, an hour and a half twice a week with us to be a part of this community. And that's just what we're doing, is trying to, let the community know we're here. And I feel like the 5K is when all of the puzzle pieces come together. You do get to see here in the Triangle, we have such a large territory between like Chatham and Orange County all the way to Johnston County. So for those of you that aren't from the Triangle, that's probably about 4 hours, maybe 5 hours north to south and then east to west of participants, of opportunity for families really to experience what happens at GOTR. Like I had mentioned, we had about 62 sites, which equated to maybe close to 1,100 girls, which means, each running girl and running buddy, that's 2,200 people and spectators. And that's who we are. We are just a community. And we want to empower our youth to be phenomenal, empowered young women and women in the future. So we want to be who our community is, and you're able to see what that looks like. And that also gives a perspective to all of our participants and families that you can look like anything, you can look like anyone and still be a part of a community. You don't have to look a specific way. unfortunately, running was not a very diverse community, but it is becoming that now. I know for myself, growing up, I didn't see a lot of long distance runners that look like me. I didn't really start running until I was 30 because I didn't think that it was for me. So now being able to create the space for someone to see someone that looks like them is why we do what we do. We want every young person to see themselves reflected within this program, within their experience with GOTR. And that's what makes us come to work every day and gets to work those long, fun, exciting, exhausting 5Ks is you see the light shine in the girls' eyes when they see someone that looks like them, and even having conversations with folks that you might not have been able to interact with because of distance or because of whatever the reasons might be. So Girls on the Run is a very inclusive and special environment and space
Yeah.
to be. So I'm, you know me, I'm excited that I was able to meet you and bring you into this awesome world.
Well, that was going to be the next question I was going to ask. You mentioned volunteer coaches and you mentioned volunteering. Much like the National At Home Dad Network, Girls on the Run is a 501c3 nonprofit. We're a volunteer organization that is 100% run by volunteers. Everything that we do in the National At Home Dad Network is done on a volunteer basis. So we got a lot of dads out there who are active volunteers.
Love
So
that.
the question becomes, how can we, and again, especially dads, be involved with Girls on the Run? Because, you know, the name being Girls on the Run and the focus being on girls, there's an awkwardness there as a dad, you know, wondering, you know, I don't want to be in a space where I'm not necessarily supposed to be. You know, how can dads get involved other than being somebody's running buddy?
Yes, of course. We love you being running buddies. The support is necessary. But as a program manager, we do see that there is a little bit of a pause when a dad or an uncle wants to be involved, more so than just a running buddy. Um, but I don't want to use the word beg because that's not what I'm going for, but we want dads to get involved. I'd say the easiest way to get involved is looking for your local council, and either just filling out a coach application or working with your school administration to bring Girls on the Run to your school. That's usually how we make a lot of connections, is either through teachers that seek our programming, or parents that work with their admin at their school to bring GOTR to their school. I have to say that a lot of the dad coaches are amazing, and the team just absolutely loves it. And as a boy mom, I would assume that it would draw in different types of conversation. Matt, you can let me know if that's happened. Um, Facilitating the lessons and having those conversations about breathing techniques and how to deal with conflict resolution, that would just open the door to maybe more conversation. So dads, come
Yeah.
on. If anyone out there needs extra assistance with your local council, if you're not here in the Triangle, feel free to email me. I can get you to where you got to go. But it's really important. We love it.
So I just want to point out one of our listeners, Arvis, who's out in the Phoenix, Arizona area. I know Arvis personally. Hey, Arvis, how you doing, bud? We joke Arvis is the world's tallest stay-at-home dad. Arvis is 7'3". Yeah,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
I come up to about here on him, but again, loves what you're doing, supports us 100%.
Thank you, Arvis.
Again, I really love the things that you guys are doing. Now, one thing that is strong on my mind as a dad with my daughter moving into middle school, she's going to be moving into 6th grade next year. And one of the things that I'm genuinely nervous about is that middle school is really different than it was when I was a kid. I mean, when I was in middle school, you know, I was not a jock. I was not one of the popular kids. I mean, I'll out myself right now. In the early to mid '80s, when I was in middle school, I was the president of the Dungeons and Dragons Club. And while that may be popular now, trust me, it was not back then. That was like absolute outcast. And there were some rough times. There was definitely, some social isolation. There was definitely some bullying and that type of thing. But at the end of the day, when school ended, I went home. When school ended, go ahead.
No, it's
Okay,
okay.
yeah, when school ended, I got to go home, and then I only had to interact with my friends. There's this online world that exists now, and it just never ends.
Yeah, it's
Um, you
ridiculous.
know, I am terrified of, my what's going to happen when my kids hit that world. I mean, we've managed to dodge any type of social media or real anything online other than the formats that they were using for school
Mhm.
so far. But as she's moving into like sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade, high school, I mean, we're not going to be able to keep it away forever.
True.
And my question is, how is Girls on the Run helping with that situation in helping them understand that they can't let like this online world change who they want to be?
Yes. So, um, sometimes I have to take off my mom hat and put on my GOTR hat, which thankfully oftentimes is this very similar looking hat. But Girls on the Run is an environment, is a social space. So having participants in the same team or group, depends on what you want to call it, it's a physical interaction that we had growing up in the earlier days, that isn't necessarily perpetuated right now. So Girls on the Run definitely helps create a space for middle schoolers, to have those conversations. That's part of the lesson is talking about identity, or how to manage social media, or how to manage like the not social media, but online environments, and
Right.
just have those discussions, because 9 times out of 10, the majority of that team is going through the same experiences. It might not be the exact same, but at least they're now creating the tools to be able to see, oh, I learned at GOTR that what I look like is my who I am. I can be as unique as I want to be, and I can go to my GOTR team and be me. I don't have to be someone else. Um, and that's why I always feel like it's so important to have those Girls on the Run teams, because you do have a space where it's a shared experience, and it's hands-on, and it's outside, and it's with other people, and it's really creating a space that, as um I'm a mid 80s child, so I remember growing up, and like you said, you go home, you get on your bike, and you go disappear for a couple hours. That's not a reality so much for our children at this point. But Girls on the Run does have that outside aspect. It
It
does kind of
does.
have that world of disappearing, if you would, into a really fun, immersive experience. And also having that 5K, I feel like the 5K is such a good anticipated event. So you are there for another shared experience and another goal that you're all trying to get to together. As mentioned before, we're not competitive, so you're not going up against your teammate, but you are there to motivate your teammate as they are there to motivate you. So um,
And I'll point out, for those of us that were doing the 5K with Girls on the Run, there were two different lines to pick up your registration. One line was for the competitive runners, which was
yeah,
actual chip timing and all the rest of it. The Girls on the Run girls just get a number. They get a
yeah,
bib number, but there's no chip for timing. They're out there to complete to complete the 5K. Time has nothing to do with it. The only reason that I know the time that we did is because I live by Garmin, and
Yes.
if it's not recorded, it didn't happen. So of
Mhm.
course, I
Yes.
clicked the Garmin the minute that
Yeah.
we crossed the start line, and clicked it again when we finished.
Yeah.
But she did say early on that she had to be allowed to cross the finish line first.
Yeah. Oh, I like
You
those
know,
boundaries. I love that.
yeah. So I totally hung back and made sure that she got across that line before I
Sprint to
did.
the finish. I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. That's so great.
Now, Arvis, I don't know if he missed this earlier, but he was pointing out that he's a boy dad with
Yes.
twin
Twin
teenagers, twin teenage
teenagers.
boys, and
Okay.
he was asking about what they can do to
Yes.
support Girls on the Run.
Sure. That could look however it fits into your schedule. So if that looks like coaching, we would love it. Also, just coming to the 5K events is always a great way to be a part of the community. Um, I'd say whatever you want it to look like, however you want to be a part of the organization is how we will always find a space for people who want to get involved in Girls on the Run. We have like sub coaching opportunities, volunteering at the 5K. That could be, if you and the twins want to come and pass out water or pass out whatever, we would love it. We have cheer stations, we have water stations, and the organization itself, not just Go to Triangle, but we are always looking for volunteers, because essentially we would not be able to do what we do if not for the communities to come together. So how
And
you want it to look.
as somebody who just recently did that 5K, I want to point out how like floored my daughter Lily was when you rounded a corner and there were like 7 or 8 people holding up homemade signs,
Yes.
saying "Girls on the Run, go for it." Or at one point there were 2 ladies that were just sitting in chairs playing drums for the girls as they went
Yeah.
by, and it was such an amazing experience just to have that level of support for the girls. And you were talking about being a mid 80s kid where you could come home and get on your bike and take off. And I will point out, I'm sure that different areas and different councils have different rules, but I know here with the Triangle group that we joined, which was at Duke Park, one of the questions that they asked when we signed up was that, is your child allowed to just walk home
Yeah.
or ride a bike home? So this is an opportunity where you would be able to give that little piece of independence to your kid. That was our plan from day one, was to drop her off and let her walk home, because we only live like 3 or 4 blocks away from Duke Park. But then her younger brother, who's 8, found out that he could go to the playground and hang out and play with random kids for an hour and a half while she was doing Girls on the Run. So we weren't allowed to leave.
That's true,
And
because I
he
feel that's
and
how
he
we
would
made our connection.
yeah, and he would play with his friends while she was doing the Girls on the Run thing. But again, if you want to give your kid an opportunity to have that little bit of independence, some of the groups do offer that ability for your child to ride their bike home or walk home on their own, or you can come and pick them up.
Yeah, as long as
As
you're within a certain radius.
right, right, yeah. I mean, obviously, you're not going to let them go across town. I mean, you'd have to
No.
live reasonably close. Yeah, Arvis said right there, passing out water sounds great. Also, if you do pass out water,
Yeah.
please very, very loudly tell everybody to go to the further away table and not to back everybody up at the first water station.
Mm. Yes,
uh, now,
that's always a good tip.
now, Arvis was talking about he did his first K last year. And I was there for
Nice.
that. We do a 5K at our convention every year called the Dad's Run 5K. It's again, we're not chip timing. It's more of a fun run. Last year we were in St. Louis, Missouri, so we actually did the entire race on the park grounds of the Arch. So we were running like with the Arch above us. for the whole thing. And, I mean, we did we had t-shirts available
Awesome.
and everybody got a finisher medal and all the rest of it. But he was asking, do you have any advice on with training that he can benefit from?
Um, yes. One, I was thinking like be a GOTR coach and you can do laps with your team. But also, Couch to 5K is always a great resource for 5K training. And
And
also
I'll
my
say
condolences to you. I've experienced running a race and having someone on your mind.
it is tough. I will say, I after that 5K, one of the sponsors of the Dad's Run 5K is a gentleman named Brandon Hamilton, who runs does his own run coaching. This, by the way, if anybody is interested, this is the link to participate in the Dad's Run 5K. In addition to there being an in-person race, we also offer a virtual option, like so many other races, where you can run the race on your own, in your own time, on the same weekend. And, we will mail finisher medals and t-shirts and all that kind of fun stuff to everyone. But Brandon does a program called Plan to Run. And I began working with him in January, and I'm still working with him, and it's made a huge difference. And the biggest thing that I've picked up run training wise was he got me on a walk run program. We started off with the idea of me running for 1 minute. And, and again, I use the word running very loosely, like jogging, like not, getting to a point where there's only 1 foot on the ground at a time, kind of pace. Running for a minute and then walking for 4 minutes, and then running for a minute and walking for 4 minutes. And eventually we just kept increasing that run time until eventually, and it took about 2.5 to 3 months of running 3 times a week, we reached a point where I hopped up and did, an hour of running without stopping. And it was amazing. It's the first time I've ever run for that long of a period of time without stopping in my life. And again, like I said, I use the term running very, very loosely. That's at a pace of around 12 to 13 minutes per mile, which is certainly not a competitive speed, but it's fast for me. It's certainly faster than I was going. Just, my advice would just be don't stop and do it regularly. The scheduling of runs is a huge difference, and accountability matters. I could probably go online and find a run training program. The neat thing about having an actual run coach is that if I skip a workout, I'm going to hear about it. Now that doesn't necessarily have to be a paid coach. You could just have an accountability partner who's willing to call you out for skipping that workout. I mean,
and Fleet Feet has some programming too. If there's a Fleet Feet in your area, that's one of our national sponsors. They have some pretty cool opportunities also.
And Fleet
but
Feet
it's always best to run in a group.
Yeah, and Fleet Feet is pretty much anywhere, anywhere at all. Again, I will say, just to remind everybody, our next convention is going to be in San Antonio. It's going to be this September 11th through the 13th. We're going to be hosting the convention this year at the Drury Hotel that is right on the Riverwalk. So the Dad's Run 5K, we are going to be running on the Riverwalk in San Antonio, which will make it much, much easier to follow directions, because it's just going to be like 1.55 miles out with the river on the right-hand side, and then 1.5 miles back with the river on the left-hand side. You don't have to worry about making a wrong turn or getting turned around or anything like that. And it's a fun time. I recommend it to everybody. And again, much like Girls on the Run, Dad's Run isn't about being competitive. It's about doing something hard and showing yourself
Yeah.
that you can do hard things. And that's not easy. I mean, I said earlier that, my daughter Lily is very, very much into the academics and the science and that type of thing. And she's very, very good at it. Um, Her doing that 5K was a big deal to her. By the end, we were definitely doing a lot of pushing. We were trying to maintain a 3 minute, 1 minute interval of run to walk for the whole race. Which was good. And she even told me afterwards, I might have overestimated by going with the full 3 minutes. By the end, we were down to like maybe 2.5 minutes before we had to drop back and walk a little bit. But she pushed herself and she did a really, really good job of it. And
I was thinking, I'm sorry.
go ahead. No, go
Oh,
ahead.
we have one of our lessons is happy pace, like finding your like what works for you. So they do have to like run really fast and then see how did that feel. Run slower than what feels comfortable. How did that feel? And it's great that she was able to find her happy pace for that 5K, which is amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, it worked out. It worked out really well. Since then, she has gone running with me once. She did come out and decide that she wanted to go on a run with me. So she and her little brother went on a run, and we did right around 3 miles. I tried to convince them to go the extra like tenth of a mile, and my 8-year-old was just like, no. So we cut it at 3.02. But again, I can't begin to explain the level of experience it was to be able to run with my daughter.
Yes.
Oh, I said 12 minutes per mile like it was nothing. No, I'm not. That is not nothing for me. That 12 minutes a mile is pushing it for me. Um, Again, I hang with a triathlon crowd, so I'm used to people talking about, oh, today was an easy run, so I was keeping everything at 8 to 9 minutes a mile, and I'm just like, yeah, that I would die half a mile at that pace. Like I would literally keel over and pass out.
Yeah.
There's no way I could keep up with that. But again, one of the things that I found really encouraging is that, again, when we went to this 5K, which by the way, the theme of it, the name of the 5K was Be Amazing, and it was all bee themed. So for the competitive runners, instead of handing out like medals or plaques, they were handing out like custom labeled honey bear bottles of like local honey, which was just really cool. Just in my humble opinion. But there were so many different people who were at that event. And it brought to mind something that I've heard time and time again is that, people talk about, that person doesn't have, that's not someone I would look at and think that's a runner. And I gotta say, in the last 4 years that I've been doing triathlon and I've done a couple of 5Ks and I've done a couple of straight races, if there's one thing I've figured out, and that's the fact that there's no such thing as a runner's body other than the body that is running.
Absolutely.
I have seen big runners, small runners, skinny runners, thick runners, short runners, tall runners. And the point is that they're all running. And I find that it is an incredibly supportive community. I have been in the very back of the pack in a local 5K. The best example I can give is, and you're from the Triangle, I try to do the Trosa turkey trot every year.
Yeah.
because I love Trosa, and the work they do is just phenomenal, and I want to support them. And the first year I did it, I mean, there might have been 10 people behind me out of the entire, 750 people racing, maybe 10, possibly less. I mean, I was way in the back. But let me tell you, every person that I crossed paths with was nothing but, you got this, keep going, you're almost there. I mean, it was always just this positive encouragement, which was just so absolutely fantastic.
Yeah. And
And
another piece that we like to insert in our 5Ks that's been consistent is we have finishing fairies. So we ensure that no participant is like the last runner. Finishing fairies, and I'm not sure if you got to see them, but they look like fairies. They've got wings, they run with wings and tutus and little tiaras at times. Um,
I
and
saw them. I didn't know what they were.
well, they were our finishing fairies. So, whereas some races have sweepers, so that means that
Uh-huh.
there's a time you got to get off the course by this time. That since we're non-competitive and we believe in empowerment, we have the finishing fairies. So if there is someone who is, wasn't the first but needs some motivation, we've got our finishing fairies that will run with them and encourage them. And oftentimes, you may meet the finishing fairy, but you will finish before them. We want to make sure that nobody, you know, sweepers is the most stressful thing. I used to run half marathons,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always like, oh my goodness, I got to make it to this point before I get swept, which is removed from the course. But
Mm-hmm.
finishing fairies just gives you that, like, we all love a good fairy anyhow. So it's very
Yes.
motivating and inspiring, because we want people to leave, and especially at these pivotal ages, like, you want to be having those experiences where people are motivating you to keep going, because it is a hurdle to go over. So gotta love those
Yeah.
fairies.
That is awesome. Now, I know that Lily did the 10 weeks at the end of the school year.
Mhm.
When does the next season start for Girls on the Run?
So the next season is our fall season. So this is our a little bit of a lull, if you wouldn't want to call it that, when
Mm-hmm.
we're putting all the pieces back together to get ready for a new programming year. So here in the Triangle, our next season will start September 15th. So
Okay.
registration will open in August. Every council is a little bit different. So definitely, if you're out there not in the Triangle, look for your local council. Typically, there's already things are set. So our 5K date, if you're looking to be a 5K volunteer, is already set, along with our programming information. Everything's there. So here in the Triangle, we have a fall season, which is typically September to December. And then we have a spring season, which Matt was included in, which is January. I just blanked. February to May. I was like, wait.
February through May.
To May, yeah.
And again, I'm assuming that changes depending on where you are. Obviously,
Absolutely.
if you
Yeah.
live in Minneapolis, Minnesota, they're not starting in February.
Um,
And,
maybe, but most likely indoors.
yeah.
That's my hometown.
And if you're in Phoenix, Arizona, they probably might very well have a winter season where it's a little bit more comfortable to run.
Absolutely.
Um, Having been in Phoenix, it's hot there.
It's
It's
hot.
hot.
It's very hot.
Well, look, Nia, we're coming up on an hour now. I just want to thank you so much for joining
Of
us. I
course. Thanks
really,
for
really
having me.
genuinely appreciate the time that you've given us. I really, really encourage all of the dads, all the parents out there that are watching, girlsontherun.org. On the very front page, there's a button to click that will help you find your local council, your local groups. You can search for the Girls on the Run groups. You can search for the Heart and Soul groups. It is an amazing experience. I have never done anything like this before, and I'm not gonna lie, I was genuinely touched as a parent to be a part of this. This was really huge. I don't know if there's a Heart and Soul program at the school that Lily is going to next year. Hopefully there is. If there isn't, we'll have to see about fixing that come spring.
Yes.
Um,
Well,
and, and and getting something set up there.
mhm.
I When I say that this builds confidence, Lily finished that 5K, and that was on Saturday. The day after the 5K, Lily signed up to do her first triathlon. So this coming August, literally the Sunday before school starts, we're going to be outside of Charlotte in a little town called Huntersville, where they're doing a sprint triathlon for the adults that starts at 7 in the morning. And then at 9 in the morning, they're doing a kids triathlon, which is a much shorter distance. I think she's going to be doing a 100-yard swim, a 2-mile bike ride, and a 1-mile run. But she was absolutely gung-ho about signing up for that. And I can honestly say, I don't know that without Girls on the Run, she would have had the confidence to sign up to do it. I really don't. So thank you for giving us this experience, and I really greatly appreciate it.
Of course,
And
thank you for trusting us. We appreciate it.
yeah, it was fantastic. And for those of you guys watching, again, remember the National At-Home Dad Network is a 501c3 nonprofit, as well as Girls on the Run. We are volunteer run. Donations keep all of us going. So if you have the ability to make donations, these are both amazing organizations to support. Again, you can support our mission at the National At-Home Dad Network by becoming a member. If you go to our website, you can click on the button. Membership comes with, the standard perks, but more importantly, your membership shows that you're supporting the content and the things that we produce, everything from the DadX discussions to Home Dad Chat, which is our weekly podcast. We do bi-weekly social hangouts called the Dad Lounge. We do bi-weekly mental health peer support groups. There's a lot that we do to try to support other dads out there and to keep us all out there doing a good job. So until June, we're going to sign off. I look forward to seeing everybody next month when we have our next DadX discussion. Again,
thanks, dads.
Nia, thank you so much for your time and energy.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
appreciate being here. See you soon.
All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.